So I made a few improvements to the calculator and did some bug fixes, and I figured I'd make another video to just demonstrate what I came up with, what is currently there. I'm gonna demonstrate the app in its current state, and I'll go through the code in more detail, because in the last video I figured it was kind of rushed, and I appended a bunch of comments to the code. I cleaned it up quite a bit. So yeah, let me just show you the app. It can do the basic stuff, the basic operations. No floating point yet still. But let me show you the bugs or whatever the defects that existed before. So the display cleared to 0 after the user clicked the operator button. An operator button, for example, when you hit 2 plus, and when you hit plus it clears to 0, whatever, that's fixed. The display field showed trailing zeros. Trailing zeros, I spent quite a bit to find the solution to trim that and format that, but that's been fixed. Inputting the digits after the equals, pressing the equals button, it was appending the resulting number, so it just added the digits to the resulting number, and now it overrides the result. So that's fixed too. I implemented the support for keyboard and numpad input, so both the number row and the numpad, everything is fully functional. There are more bugs, but I'll go over them later. Let me show you the app. So it mostly works normally. 56 multiplied by 2 equals 112. If I click this equals button repeatedly, there's no repeated calculation or iterative calculation, so it doesn't increment or repeat the last operation indefinitely. I'm gonna implement that later, but for now there is no such functionality. Clears, there's no trailing zeros after the floating point or whatever. So this is the result. It doesn't append new digits to the result as previously, so if I hit any digit, it just starts a new number. So that's great. What else? Yeah, there's no 0 in between. For example, 2. It used to be if you enter the first operand, hit plus, it would reset to 0, but now the first operand stays. And when you start inputting the second one, it's just overriding it, so that's great. Equals, that's nice. Consecutive operations work, but only if you hit equals before the next one. So for example, 6 by 6 equals 36, and then you can do another operation, for example, divided by 2. This works. However, if you do, for example, 6 by 6, and then if you hit an operator button another time, it will not like give you an intermediate result. So it just does nothing. You have to hit equals and then you can continue. So that's something to be fixed. It's on the bugs list. Consecutive operations don't return an intermediate result. I'm gonna be solving that. no repeated iterative calculation. This is, I consider it a bug. Some consider it a feature, but I figured I'll fix it. I'll make the repeated calculation possible, and then maybe make the current behavior optional as a feature. Okay, and also no support for floating point input. That's a big one. That's also something to be implemented. Okay, let's go over the code. Oh yeah, let me show you the keyboards. See, I'm not pressing anything with the mouse. I can do whatever with the keyboard. It registers the shift on the number row, so if I press 8, it presses 8. If I press multiply on the same key with shift by 2, also works. Numpad, everything. Backslash on the numpad and backslash on the main section of the keyboard, they both divide. So that's awesome. Okay, let's go over the, I guess, the layout first. Nothing exceptional, just a grid pane 4x5. This is the label for the output. Label element, it spans the 4 columns. I did some centering here, just like by trial and error. Centered this, made it, aligned this to the right. A bunch of buttons, just regular buttons. Not much to see. The only thing I changed from the last video or the last version is I styled it a little bit. So let's see how I did it. I created this calc.css file, put it into the resources folder. Yep, and just selected it here, put in the class or whatever. Here's the file. The background, I changed the background of the grid pane, buttons, text, button text, label. Not much here, but it's not the default appearance anymore. Styling is something I would like to improve later. This is the main application file. All the imports done automatically by IntelliJ. I'll go over this later. Let's just go over the main functions first, and they are all defined in the controller class. Let's go, I guess, from top to bottom. I defined the label of element, variable display, which corresponds to the only label that I have on in the view. And then there's, I really, because I'm so new to this, I guess this is lame, but I came up with using flags for a lot of things, like global variables. I guess it's suboptimal, but I just don't know a better way to do stuff. Okay, so this flag, just called flag, not very descriptive, but it stores the operator value. So we'll go over that down below, but basically every operator button sets the flag to with the corresponding sign to the string. So when it's pressed, it sets the flag. The addition button sets the flag to plus, and so on and so forth. And it's stored globally, so all the methods can access it. This global variable is for the first operand. Yeah, so I'll show you later why it needs to be global. Boolean after the operator. And from this point on, I guess I'm just gonna be reading the comments mostly because not very good at explaining just yet. And I put in a lot of time to write all these comments. Maybe it's excessive. So this after the operator flag lets the on-click functions that are assigned to the buttons know that an operator button has been pressed and they need to replace the displayed number entirely instead of appending digits to it. Basically, this allows us to enter the second operand without like appending digits to whatever that's entered already. This flag equals. This flag lets the on-click functions of the number buttons know that the equals button has been pressed and they need to replace the displayed number entirely instead of appending digits to it. So it's similar, but whenever you press equals and it gives you the result, in order to not append digits to that result with number buttons, this flag lets them know that they have to override on the first press, so that you start like another calculation that you need to perform instead of again appending digits to the result. These are the on-click methods assigned to the buttons. Pretty simple stuff. So this if-else statement, if either 0 is being displayed or an operator button's been pressed or the equals button's been pressed, display set text to 1 resets the displayed number to the button's digit. Then it sets to after the operator flag to false. After the first press, to allow for appending digits, so we can append digits after the first press, so it doesn't override the displayed value indefinitely. This flag, it sets to false. The equals flag sets to false after the first press to allow for appending digits. Same stuff, it's similar. Else, if this condition doesn't evaluate to true, so if this flag is not set or false, this flag is false, the display text is not 0, there must be something else. Therefore, we have to append the numbers to whatever there's on the display already. String num display.getText gets the number that's already on the display. Num equals num plus 1 appends its value to it. Display set text num displays the resulting number. I hope it like makes sense. And there's this was the first the number 1 digit button, and so on and so forth. All the 9, I would say 10 buttons, because there's also 0. It's all the same. Yep. And then we have the C button, which clears the display and resets all the flags. The operator flag, the after the operator flag, and the equals flag. Everything is set to either empty or false. This is the addition operator button. This line stores the current displayed number in the global variable num1. Actually, this is already causing me trouble, mostly with consecutive operations, like 2 plus 2 plus doesn't output the result, and so I guess this is the culprit. I'm not sure how to handle this, the remembering of the operands in a way that will allow me to more like optimally resolve that issue. Sets the operator flag to the corresponding operator sign. So addition button sets the flag to plus sign, a string. After operator set to true, this lets the digit buttons know that they have to overwrite the number displayed. So we talked about that if-else statement that will evaluate to true. And so the number button will initiate overwriting the first operand, so we can input the second one. And so let's say we've overwritten the first operand, it's there on the display, and then we go to the equals button, we press it to get the result. This is the equals button on click method. This line, if object equals flag, if flag is evaluated to plus, string plus sign, checks what the operator flag is set to. In this case, it's set to plus. Then it stores the currently displayed number into the local variable num2. So num1 is global, num2 is local to this method. This converts the stored strings to double and calculates the result. So does the operation, the addition. This line converts the result back to string. There's going to be a lot of converting back and forth from string to double, from double to string. I guess this can be, I'm pretty sure that this can be optimized, but I guess that's a task for later and something I'm gonna have to work on. This converts the result back to string. This defines and stores the desired number format. This basically handles the trailing zeros after the floating point, so there's no excessive zeros. This line converts the string back to double, formats, and converts it yet again back to string. This function produces a string. Then outputs said string to the display, overriding any existing number there. So basically, that's how we see the result. Then it resets the operator flag to an empty string, and then it sets equals to true. This lets the digit buttons know to overwrite the number displayed on the first press. Something we've talked about a couple of times already. And basically all the other three operator conditions, they all perform the same actions, exactly the same. If they evaluate to their corresponding operator sign, they do exactly the same thing, except of course the operation itself is different. So there you go, very primitive, causing issues. This code is causing issues already. I'm gonna definitely have to find a better way to handle this, the operand storage, the num1 and num2, because as I already explained, causes an issue with consecutive calculations. 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 doesn't output the intermediate result, and I think this is the culprit. I guess we've covered the main functionality, but let's talk about the keyboard input, because this is something very convenient. I actually implemented it first, even before fixing any bugs, because the testing is just so fast when you can test it from the keyboard instead of clicking the mouse. And so I came up or found the solution on maybe on Stack Overflow. I customized it to my needs. This is basically an event listener, I'm not as smart as to make a lambda expression. It's something that IntelliJ suggested and it reformatted to lambda. It wasn't like that. So I decided to do it first with switch. And so I wrote a switch evaluation to most of the buttons. For example, okay, it tests the value of the key code. It takes the key code from the event, key event, and if either the 0 key on the number row, this one, or the numpad 0 is pressed, this one, then press the 0 button programmatically. So we don't actually hit it with the mouse. Button.0 fire, or something I should have mentioned. How I access this button 0 from hello view fxml, because if you don't access the buttons in this way, then you won't be able to do this. First you define these variables, button 0, button, scene, lookup, and then you input the ID that you have in view.fxml. For example, this hashtag button 0, and let's see, code button 0. This is how we reference this button. So we do this method, define the all the variables for the buttons, and only then we can use those variables in switch or anywhere we want in this application.java class or file. So we evaluate everything except the number 8 because it's special. I'll cover it later. Addition, subtract, minus. Subtract, I think it corresponds to the number row button, and minus it's on the numpad. Everything equals, enter. I made it so pressing enter. Pressing either enter on the numpad and on the main section obviously fires the equals button. And also equals, it corresponds to the equals operator on near backspace on the number row. Divide and backslash, same thing. Backslash, divide is on the numpad and backslash is on the main section, but they do the same thing. I think it's the same character actually, but anyway, different key codes in Java. And delete fires the clear button C. And this default switch statement I used for debugging. For example, if I couldn't figure out like what is pressing or what is the key code for this button, I would uncomment it, or it wasn't commented before. Let's see, I'll show you. It just outputs the key code in the console, so you can press any key, C, R, E, R, Shift, Control. So if you're not sure what's going on, you can always use this system.out key.keycode. It will print it out on the default. Let's comment this back. But this enhanced switch statements weren't enough because I needed to work with shift and like multiple conditions. For example, and so let's see. This is equals. Okay, if we just press the equals button on the num row, it will be the input will be equal sign. But in order to access the plus or add operator on the same key, we need to press shift. And that's what this method is for. Key is shift down, it returns boolean. So if this shift is down, it evaluates to true, and the key code is equals, then it will fire add button, addition button, and not the equals button, not the result. That's why I used the if statement. I'm not sure if you can do the same thing in the switch. I don't think so. I don't think you can evaluate like and or whatever. And the digit 8 from the number row is like a whole different scenario. Digit 8 from the number row is a special case, as it needs to trigger an event with both shift pressed and shift released. So I excluded it from the switch statement and wrote two if conditions instead. So 8 button, when you press it without shift, it inputs 8. If you press it with shift, it should input the multiply operator. And so if the shift is down and the key code is digit 8, then it will perform multiply. It will fire the multiply button. And if the shift is not down, the shift is released, the key code is digit 8, or if the key code is numpad 8, then it will fire the 8 button. So these other if statements, I'm not sure. This is the way I got it to work. Maybe there's some better way, but I literally just started programming, so if you guys know of a better way, maybe you could tell me. Okay, well, this is just the regular set title, set scene, not resizable because, again, because I just I'm not sure how to do this, like stretchable adaptive layout, and if it needs to be adaptive for the calculator, I don't think so. I think it's excessive. Maybe for some other app. Yeah, I think that's all for now. And got some bugs to fix and features to add. Well, I guess I'm gonna continue to work on it, and see you in the next video.